Welcome back guys, this is Vishu from SavageCamp and today we are going to learn about list. So list is one of the most important data structures you are going to use, and I know I keep saying it's one of the most important things for list, for statements, if else, and the reason I say this is because I am only giving you the things that you need to know. And you are going to use this because this is the building blocks of Python. And if you want to write good Python code, you should know all of this and you will use all of this. So to start off with, it starts and ends with square bracket. Like you can see over here, it starts with a square bracket, it ends with a square bracket. It is linear in structure, which means that it would go like this. It's like a single line, that's called linear. So it will always be in a single line. You can get elements by calling their index. So this is called one element, and the position it takes in the list is called the index of the list. The index always starts with 0. And I want you to remember this if you're learning programming. In the world outside, everything starts with 1. But when you come to computer language, there's only two numbers that matters. It's 0 and 1. The whole computer language is binary. So it is built on zeros and ones. And the index, if you're taking any count, the index will always start with 0 and not 1. So the first element will always be 0. And you'll understand why this is important when we write a list. And it's easier to use and can hold various data types, but only one value in one element. So it can only hold one value in every element. So that is it. When you come to dictionaries, you will see that it can hold two values in one element, and we will see that in the dictionaries. But let's write a list. So for list, I am going to open the idle because it's easier to write in idle. So I'm going to do maybe answer is equal to, let's copy the whole thing so we don't have to write this. So my list is this. So instead of my list, I'm going to do it as A. So it's easier to use. So it's really bad practice. Don't name your variables as A, but to show you, I'm using it as A. So A, if I print it, it's a list. So if I want the first element, like I said, the index starts with 0. So if I want the first element, I am not going to write A of 1. Because if I write A of 1, it is 1, which is this number. If I want the first element, it's always going to be A of 0. So A of 0 will give you the first element. A of 1 will give you the second element. A of 2 will give you the third element. And A of 3 will give you the last element. So there are 4 elements in the list. So if you see a list with 4 elements and you try to get the last element as 4, you will get an index error, which means that the index does not exist in the list. And why is that? Because when you start with 0, this is the first element, second, third and fourth, but this is the 0 index, index 1, index 2 and index 3. So the list ends at index 3, which is over here. So index 3 is going to give you the last element. And if you want the last element, you can also refer to it as -1 and it will give you that. If you want the second last element, you can do -2 and it would give that. So we are going backwards. If you do -3, it is going to give you the second element. And if I do -4, this will give you the first element. Now, if I want to print the whole list, I can do A0 to 3. So when I use something like this is going to print something like a for loop. So it's going to go up until the last element. So it will not include the last element. So if you want the last element to be included, you should have 4 over here because it will go up until 4. It will not go to 4. So when you do this, you will print the whole list. If you want to print the list in backwards, you do 2 colons and you do -1. So when you do this, it will reverse the list, because this 2 is from element until element, and then there's -1 which says go in reverse. If you just do A and then you do like 2 colons, so you're not specifying up until, so it is going to take everything. And the other way you can also do this is A0 to 4, which is all the elements, but like the step thing, like we did in the for loop, here we did 10. So here if I do 2, it is going to print every second element. So it is going to print Vishu over here. So it is going to print the first element, it would skip the second, it would print the third, it would skip the fourth. Now if I want to add elements in a list, so I have to declare the list as, let's do it like this. So here I have a list. So if I want to print every element of the list, I am going to do for each element in my list. So this is the for loop. So for something in somewhere, so for each element in my list, I am going to print each element. This makes sense because for each element in my list, so each element, I am printing out each element. So this is how you print out a list using a for loop. And in the next video, I will show you how to create a list which is not predefined like this and go over it. So I will see you guys in the next video.